Hello,
One, two.
and welcome to the Charles River Conservancy Parkland Show. My name is Renata von Charner. I'm the founder and president of the Charles River Conservancy. And as always, we talk about our wonderful river and its parklands. And today we're going to talk about a very special celebration. And our guest is Paddy Swanson. Welcome, Paddy.
Thank you, Renata.
Paddy is the artistic director of Revels. And you might all know Revels from the Christmas Revels, from the Spring Revels, the Summer Revels. But today we're going to talk about the autumnal equinox Revels, or the Fall Revels. And those Fall Revels take place on the, guess where? The Charles River.
Right.
And they started, it was a partnership between the Conservancy and Revels in 2004, and now it's part of the Revels regular calendar. So we're going to look at some pictures, and then we hear Paddy tell us what's up for this year and the wonderful aspects of Revels. So the originally started in 2004 on our wonderful river, and it really started with an illumination of the bridges, a temporary illumination that was just theatrical light that we did in 2001. We wanted to bring light to the Charles, so we illuminated the bridges and we had some celebrations on the bridges. Then we moved on to from temporary illuminations to permanent illuminations, and when this bridge will be renovated by Mass DOT, it will have the permanent illumination, as will the other bridges. And here you see the very first Revels and Conservancy River Sing. So tell us a bit about that, Paddy. What happened at the first River Sing?
Well, there we are. You can see right in the middle of the bridge, we've got a big puppet. And we had no idea when we first started this how big that really had to be. It's considerable. We thought we had something that was enormous, and when we put it on the bridge, it was kind of human size. So there is our river god, if you like, and right in front of it is the little stage. The slogan that we adopted that year was bridging the River Charles with light, as Renata had begun to do, but also with song. And so we had a group of people on the Cambridge side, and we had a group of people on the Ulston side, and we sang across the river. We used some Balkan cries, which used in villages to call from hill to hill, and we had most of the entertainment right in the middle of the bridge there. But later on, I think we realized, and there it is. We made that's the next year, I think, and we had a bridge with a little more presence, because we had Sarah Peaty create this kind of halo of arrows that reflected in the lights, and you can see the underlighting of the bridge there. Yeah.
Let me just come and interject here, because the bridge now looks a little bit different, and Mass DOT and DCR worked together the last few years to restore the bridge. It has now a handicap ramp accessible, and it has new light fixtures. And I think as part of this River Sing today, this year, there will be the ribbon cutting
to open the new bridge. Yes, exactly.
So there will be the DCR commissioner,
right.
Carol Sanchez will be there. So it's wonderful to have all the revelers, all the river singers, part of that celebration of the much improved bridge.
It's a beautifully designed, it's a great solution, actually. They've just continued the curve of the bridge so that it now comes down further out, so you could take a wheelchair right up it, but you can also ride a bike right across it.
Yeah.
And it's tremendous. Yeah, so there's our lively party in the middle of the bridge.
So it starts at 6 o'clock. It's still daylight, and the same
it is
as this year.
Yeah.
So that will remain the same. And then we have some pictures of these gigantic puppets
That's a hand that you're looking at. Yeah. We thought that was pretty big, but not big enough. So eventually what we did was to move onto one bank of the river to get, there's a side view of the puppet, which is It's pretty nice. I must say, I do like the idea of that giant sort of sea creature on top of the bridge,
Yeah.
claiming it.
And one of your supporters is the Cambridge Arts Council,
Right.
appropriately, because it's really,
Right.
it's not just music, it's also the visual arts are very
Correct.
much part of it.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, there they are. So we moved eventually onto one bank and consolidated the crowd, which was one of the things, because singing across the river was great idea, but the sense of community which a big group of people singing
Yeah.
together has
Yeah.
is really what the event's
Yeah.
about.
And it's also, Memorial Drive is closed on Sundays, so
Yeah.
it's much more quiet on the Cambridge side, whereas Storrow Drive, or the Soldiers Field Road as it's called there,
Right.
remains open. So there was always the traffic going by,
That's
which was
right.
a bit of a distraction. So to focus it all on Cambridge, I
Right.
think was a great improvement.
And then we improved our lighting so that we have a little blast of light now, and we put a lot of our resources into creating a sound system that was excellent, top of the line. So now we have a very strong presence
Yeah.
when you come down there.
Yeah.
And people, of course, this all starts in Harvard Square. Before the bridge ceremony and everything that goes on down at the river, we gather in Harvard Square, and we have family-friendly events like face painting and stilt walking, and whoever would like to come and pick up one of the puppets. We lay out all the puppets up there, and they can, kids can come and be part of a dragon, or they can come and be part of a school of fish, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we have drummers, a drum line up there who'll be playing. So there's a lot of music that's involved. We have a one-man band that comes along at the end of the procession.
And it's great to start it right in the heart of Harvard Square and
Yeah.
the Harvard Square Business Association.
Right.
One
They've been-
year they even have picnic baskets so that people can pick up a picnic
Sure.
basket and take it down to the river. And they also help you to get the permit to close the road.
They
and
do.
then you have a parade
Yeah, they help.
going down.
They're enormously helpful for sort of channeling us from the Harvard Square area down to the river.
And then people gather here at the river. That was year you had about 4,000 people. That was a wonderful.
that was one of the years. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a great song called "Shall We Gather at the River," which comes from the American traditional music, and that's part of. Actually, we're singing it this year.
Yeah,
So
great. And in addition to all the thousands of people, the Conservancy volunteers, which is a program of 2,000 people every year, will be cutting the bushes there so that it's easy to see the water.
That's right.
And but you also bring a lot of volunteers to this event.
Yeah, I bring my two sons who go around with a brush and a dustpan and gather up the goose poop.
And then the singing, the 100 singers.
Yes. We've invited singers really from all the singing groups around Boston, Cambridge. People just, now it's a little bit of a tradition because we're over a decade old. And a lot of people kind of set their clocks by it in some ways. They bring down a picnic, they set up the space on the ground there. And of course, you can go way back. You can adjust. If you really like, loud and in the thick of it, you go up front. And if you'd like a quieter event, you go further towards the back.
Yeah.
And really the setting for this is that whole sweep of the river. And I think that's actually one of the prettiest parts of the river there, that little river bend.
Yeah, it's also the place where the Conservancy has the Sunday Parkland Games.
Ah, yes.
We have our yoga where it's a
right.
beautiful spot because
And
the bridge is beautiful.
Well, that particular bridge, the Weeks Bridge, is a special piece of
by
architecture.
McKim, and White, same architect as the Harvard Business School, was built to carry the steam across the
Right.
river.
I've actually been inside there and seen those steam pipes that go across. That's something.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
So here we have George Emlyn, and tell us who else is involved in Revels generally, and also in River Sing.
Well, there's a list of people. Louise Grasmere comes and sings with us every year. There she is, with George Emlyn behind her, who's our music director. David Coffin there, who is the song leader for our Christmas Revels. Stan Strickland, who is playing his soprano sax there on the bridge. But later on, there's the traditional ending to River Sing. He'll be playing that from the Sunboat, which will be on the water.
And tell us what will be the special feature this year.
We've got some special guests, courtesy of Renata and the Conservancy, and this is Eli Neuberger and his Hot Six, right? And Eli is, of course, he's a landmark musician in Boston and environs. The New Black Eagle Jazz Band. I actually booked him when I was up at Castle Hill many years ago. So he's around Eli. You would expect some of the best musicians in Boston to gather, and sure enough, he's got the best.
Bringing them,
and they play a New Orleans style jazz. So sort of the old style jazz,
as blues, of course.
As well as blues. Yeah, I mean they have these are musicians that can probably play anything, but their stock in trade is a New Orleans variety of traditional jazz. So they will lend a lot of the songs that are in our repertoire. Are very, will be supported by them. So
wonderful. Well,
it'll be great fun.
I can't wait. Recently, I heard Eli and his musicians play together with an Alphorn, a Swiss Alphorn, and it was just
gorgeous. Well, that would appeal to you, right?
Oh, it sure did. It sure did. So let's move on here. This gives a wonderful vista of the evening,
right?
The sunset,
right?
And then, so people have music. Actually, people can sing along.
Yeah, it's the simplest thing in the world. The concept is people singing together, and we supply, just a couple of things that aid in that experience. But really, this is the joy of singing together. I don't know if you know, but WGBH did some research into what is the favorite activity in the United States. The favorite activity is singing together.
Wow.
And they based a program on that, but the whole, amateur groups, church groups, whatever, it's just that experience. So here's where you're singing, the backdrop, because my job in the theater is the metteur en scène, putting things in a context,
and
using scenery. There it is. There's the scenery. We don't. What can we? What lighting effect can I get better than that?
Yeah.
So that it's a slow process. We time it so that at the end of River Sing we're going into dusk and sunset. This was an earlier production where we actually had the dragon boats, which were, and I think that's me actually.
I think that's you.
I think that's me, and I had something called a gong drum, which was reverberating in the back of this dragon boat. We morphed from the dragon boat into the sun and moon boat, which is something that came later.
Yeah. So the sun and moon goes together with something that George has composed.
Yes, George Emlyn, music director of Revels, wrote a really beautiful river hymn, which is based on a Navajo chant, I think. I think it's Navajo, of beauty before me, beauty behind me, beauty, etc. And it's contemplative. It's done over a drone. Everybody sings it. There's a verse. It's a call and response. And the sun and moon boat, sun and moon, because this is the equinox that we're celebrating, when the day and the night is of equal length. So we got the sun and the moon in balance here, and we have this little boat that comes down with the sun on the front and the moon on the back, and Stan Strickland on the front plays the response to the chorus. There he is playing. In the earlier versions of this, his feet used to get wet because the boat tipped down. Now we have a new boat, so he's pretty dry.
Yeah, and it's so dramatic to the boat coming down, the music coming down, and then it's almost like a ballet scene on the water as they turn around there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a nice moment. I like the contemplative quality of it after all the celebration.
Yeah.
And then we finish with a bang.
Tell us a little bit more. The bang, that's going to be the big surprise.
We're
not going to
we
give
won't
the
go into
surprise
that.
away.
No.
Tell us a little bit more about what Revels does the other parts of the year.
Well, the big mama is the Christmas Revels, which happens at Sanders Theatre in December, and that goes for 17 performances. And tickets they're actually going on sale to groups at the moment, and they'll be on sale shortly. But they go quite quickly, and we hate to disappoint people, but
They're sold out.
get in there early is all I can say.
So anybody who loves singing as a group, there's a lot of singing as a group, and it's in a beautiful space in
Sanders Theatre, which is 200 years old, right? Is that right? No, 100. Yeah,
well, it was
100.
built before the Civil War.
It's before the Civil War. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, this year we're going to Wales as in the Welsh nation. So which is the home of many beautiful melodies. Good tradition of male choral singing. From the miners who got together. Dylan Thomas and all sorts of things. As well as that, we have a Spring Sing, which is a smaller event in Watertown, but that's great. We have Twelfth Night, which follows Christmas, which is a smaller event.
You do something that soon after Christmas?
We do.
Wow.
For the people, it's people with very small children who may not think that they can get to Revels, or people that just want to put Christmas to bed. It's the 12 days of Christmas. This is the last day, and then River Sing, of course.
And you do a lot of things in schools and for homeschool.
We do. We have
children?
a whole program, a whole educational program now that has courses and different workshops in Watertown. David Coffin goes into schools with a couple of programs, one a C program, one on his early instruments, all of the King's Court. He demonstrates. David plays just about anything you can blow and sings.
Yeah, and he also leads
and
the
he
Christmas
leads
Revels
and he
singing,
leads the songs.
With a lot of charisma.
He's an old favorite.
Yeah.
Well, he calls that the role that Jack built. Jack Langstaff being the man who founded Revels 44 years ago. 45 years ago, what am I saying? This next year is 45 years.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Well, we'll be coming soon back to the end of the program, and this is the information. You can find out more at the website of Revels.
Right, www.revels.org should take you to our website, and from there's a number of directions you can go, but you'll find it easy to buy tickets or learn about what we're doing for kids through the year or anything else. We have salons as well that are kind of nice with wine and cheese and some invited guests.
Tell us a little bit more about the salons.
Well, this year we have a couple of them, and we're kind of setting them up so that they point towards the Christmas Revels. So the first one will be George and I kind of deconstructing how we put a Revels together, so that we look at some of the research, George went to Wales actually this year.
Summer, yes.
And some of the ways in which we put the theatrical part together. What are the sources? Something about Dylan Thomas, Susan Cooper, who was brought up in Wales and wrote Revel scripts for many years, is working on this year's script with me.
Doesn't she also do didn't she write a poem that is recited
Yes,
every year?
yes, The Shortest Day.
Yeah.
And she's best known, of course, in most circles as a children's author. She wrote the series The Dark is Rising, and many other books. So that's a special thing. We're also bringing my favorite soloist, soprano from New Zealand this year. Which
is a Welsh accent from New Zealand?
She's a Welsh New Zealander. No, Jane Tankersley, who was last in the Scottish show, we found to be one of the best interpreters of folk music or traditional music, with the sensibility of a musician who's trained in early music practice. She has that pure kind of bell tone, which is great and great interpretive qualities.
Yeah.
So.
And you also have children singing, and children as part of what you call the Revels family of this large group of volunteer musicians.
Right. Children are really at the core of what we do. We create Revels families more as a directing tool, but it's also a great fun for a kid to arrive and pick out their dad, or have a fantasy family that only exists on the Revels stage, and that's rather interesting for many people. It's interesting for the adults. I don't know about the kids.
Well, this partnership with Revels has been a wonderful thing for the Conservancy, because we celebrate the parklands. Our mission being making the parklands more active, attractive, and accessible.
Right.
So in addition to the volunteer events which take place all along the river, and our swimming, our skate park, our making it easier to bike, the celebration of the river is such an important part. And I know you wrote the quote for the new publication River Sing, which will be another program. Celebrating the river is so important. Just like in life, there's work, there's politics, and here this is the big party of the year. Right.
And I actually found this nice little piece to start off the show from the novel A River Runs Through It. Wow. Not every city has a river that runs through it.
We're lucky.
We're very lucky.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the end of the show, and you can get that show on YouTube in a few days. Thank you, Paddy Swanson.
Thank you, Renata.
It's been a pleasure, and we're looking forward to River Sing 2015. And I will put back the information about River Sing and then also about the Conservancy. Thank you very much, Paddy.
Thank you, Renata.